Coming to you from the Microkeeper recording studio, this is the Cloud Stories podcast. Microkeeper offers expert rosters, timesheets, payroll and workforce management solutions all in one spot. Hi, I'm Heather Smith and welcome to Cloud Stories, a podcast exploring the accounting and business apps community. This interview was recorded at the Spring Hill Suites Buckhead, Atlanta. We were supposed to record in the business suite, but there was a maintenance issue in all of their business seats. So we recorded in the cafe area instead. There's a little bit of background noise, but I'm sure you'll be okay. Joining me today is Andrey Kustarnikov, the CEO, founder and visionary behind G-Accon. Andrey and G-Accon have been strategic partners for many years, and they flew into Atlanta to meet me, and we spent several days together. Andrey and his wife and co-founder Maria very kindly took me on a tour of Atlanta in their Tesla. How lucky am I? Let me tell you a bit about G-Accon. G-Accon is an effective tool that connects Xero, QuickBooks, Freshbooks, Sage and Workflow Max to Google Sheets. Andrey brings over 20 years of experience in software development, microservices architecture, and cloud integration, focusing on the banking and financial sectors. His educational background includes an MBA and a Master in Physics, which have been instrumental in building G-Accon. This software has been quite useful to its users, and Andrey is interested to see what is coming next for G-Accon. Hello, Andrey. Welcome to the Cloud Stories podcast. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Can you just briefly share with our listeners who you are and where you're from?
I'm Andrey Kustarnikov. I am co-founder of G-Accon.
Awesome. Sensational. So can you explain to our listeners your solution, G-Accon, what it does?
In general, what we are doing, we are just integrating the cloud accounting platforms with the Google Spreadsheet, and we're moving data back and forward.
And you work with a number of different platforms, don't you? So you work with Xero, QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, we have actually, that's a majority, that's actually our leaders. And also we have Freshbooks, we have Sage. We have Workflow Max, but Workflow Max is not so popular anymore because it's kind of the obsoleting that. But yeah.
Absolutely. So what type of people or what type of businesses does G-Accon suit?
We have accountants, we have bookkeepers, and we have owners. They usually using different use cases, but yeah, that's a three type of users who use us.
What was the journey to create this solution? Why did you see a need to create this solution?
It was interesting because originally I personally participated in creating of the add-on for Salesforce, which was G-Connector for Salesforce, and we everybody went their own way, and when I looked at ChargeBee, they advertising Xero, and I thought actually maybe it's a good idea, and that's how we started to integrate with Xero.
Excellent, thank you for that. So what are some of the features and functionalities that people like about G-Accon?
We have a lot of people obviously who likes our reports and flexible reporting system where they can actually for using classes if we're talking about QuickBooks, or tracking category if we're talking about Xero. We have a lot of people who just doing data entries in bulk, like 1,000 records. For QuickBooks, we can actually upload up to 6,000 records. For us, it was shock actually that in the end of the year, the guys creating journals with 1,000 records. That one journal and 1,000 records. So we had to adjust our algorithms and our ability to upload because we didn't have, originally we put the limit 500 and it was not enough.
So both of those solutions can export into Google or G Suite. What are the sort of additional features and functionalities that you give it beyond what someone can get with the general ledger platform, the Xeros or the QuickBooks or the Freshbooks?
I think that with General Ledger, I think it's more detail, like for example, if you're pulling invoices or you're pulling bills, we have more attributes. It's not just number or price, but you can get detailed taxes. You can get the address, you can get email, you can actually get how to send it. So it's more attributes and more detailed.
Can you share with me a customer success story of someone using your solution?
We have Mike King, whom we actually sponsor. I think he built a whole company based on our application, and what his philosophy is actually is that when he's uploading the data, when you're uploading data, you always need to verify the data. So in order to be sure that done it correctly. But with our solution, with auto refresh, you don't need verify because it's kind of repeatable operation, and it saves a lot of time because you kind of 100% sure that the data which you load, it's correct data.
Excellent. So a lot of people may have seen the recent movie out starring Taron Egerton called Tetris. And the inventor of Tetris was Alexei Pajitnov, may have said that wrong. And like yourself, he came from Moscow. What memories do you have of Tetris in Moscow?
Honestly, I didn't watch video yet, so I'm my wife did, I didn't, so sorry. As concerned Tetris, it was my first game. It was not IBM, it was a Spectrum Z80 processor, which I created myself when I was in college. In that time, nobody has a computers, and in order to use computer and play Tetris, you had to create a computer first. That was how environment.
Was that so? That was quite unusual for someone to actually be playing Tetris in Russia.
Yes, and it was electrical data tapes. You have a tape recorder. And you use tape recorder to load that game. So it was not. There was no disc. There was nothing like that.
Wow, that's.
And I remember there was actually 1 kilobyte. It was actually the huge amount of data. Compared with 16 gigabyte right now, which is normal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. So interesting. I know that you haven't seen the movie, but it's so interesting to see the development of that solution, which I knew and loved. And I don't play games, so I don't play many games, but I did know and love that one. And that it actually came out of Moscow. So that's brilliant. So I'm interested in knowing, I sort of want to talk a bit more about your business. How would you describe the brand identity of G-Accon? And how would they describe it? And how do customers connect with your solution? Like what do they say about your solution?
We are helping people move data back and forward. That's what we try to do. We obviously, based on our solution, people can create the dashboards, they can create integrated with the different system, they can upload, but from our perspective, we try to move data back and forward. Plus, when we started to move data back and forward, we figure out that reporting is one of the major requirements from the customer. So yeah, we had to adjust some reports and make them looks good. Plus, we, for example, profit and loss. Everybody knows the layout of profit and loss. It's a pivot table practically. What we are doing, we have another layout, which is historical layout, where we kind of putting the date, amount, account, for example, tracking category or class. In that case, it is very convenient for the BI solutions. So you can it's nature of BI solutions. But in general, yeah, we try to move the data back and forward automatically with the schedule.
Very good. And how do you encourage innovation within your organization? I'm not exactly sure how big your organization is, but how do you encourage innovation, and how do you foster sort of other people to be thinking innovatively?
We just recently, I myself still doing development, and I kind of investigating different technology. Like, for example, React was actually on our horizon for a long time. And I spent some time to just integrate it with our application. And now I'm propagating and I kind of asking our developers to use it. And we are using React for our UI, for example. What else? We try constantly to investigate different technology. We look at ChatGPT, but honestly, we don't know how to use it for now. We want it actually just get the summit because it's so popular, but still don't have any idea how to use it.
Yes, I think a lot of people are looking at ChatGPT that way, especially if they're not using words and if they're using numbers and how that works.
So far, I saw that our competitor, they use actually that as UI. So you don't need to write UI. You're just telling like, okay, just create for me profit and loss with a certain tracking category. But for me, it's a kind of, in that case, we need to remove the whole UI and just replace it with ChatGPT. So it's practically voice additional voice capability to the add-on, which is, I'm not sure if we don't need it or not.
So I know that you're based out of Detroit, Michigan. What are your sort of global expansion plans? What do you look at the world globally, and sort of what challenges have you faced there?
With Xero, originally everybody was surprised that we're out of Detroit because it's Xero is really popular in Australia, New Zealand, UK. And still, I think that some of our customers doesn't have any idea that we're in Michigan, really. But Xero helped us a lot from perspective of when we started to develop. We developed slow, and we come up with a lot of good solutions using Xero. QuickBooks, I think that it's US market and it's more competitive. People expecting better solution to have everything out of box in the short time. And because of that, I guess why we were lucky when we started with Xero, because we have everything. And when we went to the US market, we have everything, all that stuff. So it's for us, it's kind of the matter of advertising and convince people that we have a good solution. But in reality, we adjust and we add a lot of features. We add a lot of features which help us to gain the customers.
Excellent, thank you. What lessons have you learned from expanding into new markets? We've talked about geography, but maybe markets, integrations, partnerships. And with that, one of the things is, me as a very, very naive non-programmer, why do you only work with G Suite or Google Sheets? Why don't you work with Microsoft Excel?
What we figure out that I think there is a classic rule 7. You need to see 7 times the brand, then you probably start to use it. Obviously, there are people who can start immediately, but usually, it takes time. So, and that's what we try to do. That's why we started. And COVID probably stopped all our efforts for a long time, for 2 years, because we just sat in the basement and we looked at each other. Now we try to get to the different exhibition. We are going to Woodward. We are hopefully go to QBO Connect. We try to talk to different influencers. Thank you to you that we kind of give us opportunity to talk to you personally, because it's very good to put faces together, not just through the internet and through the podcast. As concerning Microsoft, we tried, and probably we will. We are talking about Microsoft 365. There is some technical issues, and we still don't know. The issue that it's Microsoft and Google customers, it's different customers, different people with different mentality. So we are not sure if we will do the solution, which is probably technically easy stuff. We are not sure if we will be able to win those people, because Microsoft is corporate world and it's different world.
Ah, that's interesting. Yes, and I will mention, because you have spoken to me about this, is that with once you've developed something in G Sheets, you can convert it to Microsoft Excel.
Yes.
And I think you also said you can automate it so it will email in Microsoft Excel. Am I correct?
Yes, we can actually, on the schedule, we can automatically convert it to the Excel and email to you.
So if the accountant or bookkeeper is working in G Sheets, but the client wants it in Excel, that's actually not a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So that's quite interesting. So as people heard Andrey say that we've spent some time together, I'm actually here in Atlanta, Georgia, and Andrey and his lovely wife flew in to spend the last couple of days with me, and we've gone around the World of Coca-Cola Museum.
Yes.
And sort of we walked down downtown Atlanta where Spider-Man was filmed. And I also, very kindly, you came around a botanical garden with me, which I'm not sure whether you were keen about, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was quite spectacular.
Thank you. It was actually nice to go to botanical and Coca-Cola, and I always like how they're telling till the end that they're gonna actually disclose the formula of Coca-Cola, and never do that. Yeah. Well, they said something by keeping it secret, it keeps the magic alive. But I like that museum because I think I'm looking at Coca-Cola. It's more like marketing company than product company, right? And their success is like really marketing success, how they advertise, how the whole those years. And it's actually very, very interesting looking at that company, how using marketing they became really number one.
Yeah, look, it was actually, I didn't understand how a whole museum could be on Coca-Cola, but it was actually a really interesting journey. And for our listeners, the John Pembroke invented Coca-Cola, but it was his bookkeeper who named it Coca-Cola, and his bookkeeper who actually used the script of the Coca-Cola, the sort of the distinctive trademark that you currently know today. And that was actually a common script used by bookkeepers of the era. So actually had a lot of sort of intersection with bookkeepers. And the bookkeeper, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he went on to be... he actually went on to do a lot of the advertising and marketing for them, and went on to be regarded as one of the US's expert advertisement people of the era. So just sort of the importance of the bookkeeper knowing what's going on in the business.
Yes.
and evolving and actually took the reins and did something else with that. So it was quite interesting.
Yes.
So, Andrey, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
We are gonna be on Woolworth, and hopefully, if you will be in Woolworth, just stop by and just grab some souvenirs and just talk to us. We will be happy to talk to you, and just follow us on link of Twitter or Facebook.
Excellent. So, how can you've mentioned how they can get in contact with you, but can you share with us maybe your website name?
Yeah, it is Accon, ACCON.services, and the email is support@accon.services.
Thank you so much for joining me on the on Cloud Stories podcast, Andrey.
Thank you very much for having me.
You've been listening to the Cloud Stories podcast. If you enjoyed this interview, I encourage you to subscribe and leave a 5-star review so other people can find this podcast. Stay up to date with the curated content about the ecosystem space by signing up to the Accounting Apps newsletter, available at heathersmithau.com. I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I suggest you join the Xero Mastermind group on Facebook for advanced conversations around the ecosystem. I'm Heather Smith, and you've been listening to the Cloud Stories podcast.